Miners, and I'm here to speak to you about what you need to overcome before you solo. And it sounds like it relates to flying, and it does, but it also relates to what you need to know before you go out and promote your book by yourself. As Willem said, I'm a pilot. But what you don't know is I was not born in a flying atmosphere. I knew nothing about flying when I went out to fly. I'd never even been in an airport, except for maybe 5 commercial flights during my lifetime. I didn't do challenging things even as a kid. I never played sports. I didn't have a wall full of trophies at home. But I found myself 37 years old in a boring job. I was unfulfilled and I was unsatisfied, and I wanted something more. And to complicate things a little bit further, that was about the time that my father passed away. My father was an alcoholic, sad, unhappy, miserable man because he never followed his dream in his life. And I found myself thinking, is this what I'm to happen to me? You know, is this how my life is going to be? I'm just going to go through life, and I'm never going to have pursued what I wanted to do. And I thought there has to be something more. And interestingly enough, that's when the Sugarland song was playing on the radio, if you've ever heard Gotta Be Something More. And in the process of finding a new job and something that made me happy, I fell into helicopters. And someone said, do you think you'd like to learn to fly? Well, sure, let's see how fun this is going to be. And the fire was started for me. When I finally got my helicopter license, I was 40. And when I got my airplane license, what we call fixed wing, I was 43. So don't ever let anybody tell you it's too late to try something different. But it's not easy. I second-guessed my ability the whole way through the process because I'd never done it before. I started to think maybe it was my age. Maybe I'm too old to try this. I started to think maybe it was my gender. I'm a woman. This is a man's world. All of my instructors were men. And then other students in the process moved on. They passed. They went on to the next thing. Even some of my instructors moved on. I mean, for those of you who don't know, actually being any kind of flight instructor is the beginning of the process. You achieve a certain number of hours through learning, and then you become an instructor. The instructors achieve a certain number of hours, and now they're qualified to take a job. So your instructors leave you. So I fought through every hour of my lessons. And that fire that was burning in me to learn how to fly was dampened down to coals by my tears more times than I can tell you. But I went back over and over again. And I had the support of my husband, and I had the support of friends who said, you want this, go for it, don't give up. So I stubbornly went back. And I fought to achieve certain technical skills that I knew I had to achieve over and over again, and I found myself hitting walls over and over again. And a lot of those were right here, the whole age, gender thing, those were my walls. And I noticed I had a lot of negative thoughts. The negative thoughts build and build. And I decided I have to do something about this. I can't go on thinking these things or I'm never going to get where I want to be. I had to turn my negative thoughts around and I had to develop some confidence. So one of the things I did was I made myself a playlist on my iPod of musics that pumped me up, including Sugarland. And I made a CD for my car, and every time I went to a lesson, I put that music on to make me feel better. I also came across a really good instructor, and he said, you know what, you go out here every day trying to get these technical skills down. Forget it for today. Forget it for tomorrow. The next 3 days, we're focusing on nothing but going out and having fun. One of the fun things we did was we went out to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and he taught me how to set that helicopter down on rocks in the middle of the river, or pads of grass in the middle of the river. And within a few days, a few hours of lessons, we went back to the airport. Okay, let's try those technical skills again. I had them. All of a sudden, it was done because we made it fun. We took off, we had some fun, and I relaxed. And I had the skills all along. I was just fighting it so hard. I also had to stop seeing myself as a student. You have to think of yourself as the pilot. And you may be the author, but you also have to be the one who's promoting your book. So you kind of have to play a mental game of fake it till you make it. You have to believe in yourself. One day on the Facebook page, I noticed there was a guy who had written and said, well, I guess I'm not really an author, but I've written some things. And the Publish America employee quickly wrote back, you are a writer. Don't believe that you're not a writer. So you have to believe in what you're doing. However, pride is tricky, particularly tricky in the aviation world. And particularly tricky for me because I grew up in an environment where you can't be boastful. You can't be proud. You don't want to go around bragging about things. That's just not how we work. So I tend to still remain soft-spoken, and I like to keep it that way. But in the aviation world, that just doesn't happen. There's a couple good aviation jokes out there. How do you know you have a pilot at your party? She'll tell you. How many pilots does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just one. She holds the bulb and the world revolves around her. But I didn't want to be that person. So one day I overheard one of my instructors talking about pride. And he said, you have to mean it, and it's how you explain it. You don't go out and brag about something, you share. And you want to inspire people with your own passion. But this is what you do, and it's inspirational. It builds others up instead of breaking them down. That's the difference between pride and confidence. Interestingly enough, the same instructor had written a book that he shared different pilot skills with other new pilots to help them along the way. And I don't think his book was a bestseller, but I tell you what, just recently I was reading an aviation online log, and his book was mentioned all these years later. So don't ever give up. Our quest for fulfillment is largely based on recognition. We want recognition for what we've done. And that's also part of the pride thing, and it's not a bad thing. But recognition for what you've done comes in so many forms. I never had children, but ask any mother how recognized she feels for what she's done. Don't overlook the simple things. Marketing yourself and your book shouldn't be solely about the money or solely about the numbers. You're doing this because it feels good. You're doing this because it's part of what makes you you. Don't be like me going out there trying to hone a technical skill day after day after day, hating what I'm doing, when it should be fun. Market yourself and your book in such a way that you believe in what you're doing. The rest will come. I've recently applied for the Civil Air Patrol. And for those of you who don't know what the Civil Air Patrol is, it's a auxiliary to the Air Force. But my purpose in joining the Civil Air Patrol was, sure, go out and have some fun when I have the opportunity. But the other thing that the Civil Air Patrol does is they speak to youth, and they work with youth who join the Civil Air Patrol as cadets. And a lot of times those kids come from less than perfect environments. Maybe their parents work 2 jobs and don't have time to encourage them. I've heard so many stories about kids who come in shy or sullen or just disheartened, and they join the Civil Air Patrol, and those same kids go on to a military academy somewhere and make something of themselves. Or maybe they don't even end up joining the military, but they become somebody because the confidence builds from being part of the Civil Air Patrol and having been inspired by the people there who wanted to share their passion with them. So be confident in your work and follow your passion and share it with somebody because it means something to you. It may take multiple attempts and many paths, but don't you give up. If it's coming from your heart, it has meaning. I've really enjoyed sharing all of this with you, but I want to close with one simple quote. This is from Sidney Smith, who is a British writer and essayist. A great deal of talent is lost to the world for want of a little courage. Thank you.